Hello everybody, we are back. Now, as some of you might have noticed, we took a break last week. It was an excellent opportunity to catch up on all the planning and editing that goes into the show, and as well as take a short break to clear our minds and recharge our roleplay batteries. Going forward, we may choose to do this again at the end of each month, so do make sure to check in with us at Elsewhere Beyond on Twitter for all the news and updates as they come. Now, without further ado, let us return to The Witcher Chaos on the Pontar, an actual play series by Elsewhere and Beyond run using the Witcher TRPG by R.Talsorian. Last time, the party ended their session having just held council with the vile and foul-mouthed steward of La Valette, Lord Merrick Bale of Temeria. Rightfully so, the group were not impressed and turned from the Lord's quest. Arthwyn has stormed out of the gatehouse beside the gate leading into the castle in the Temple District. Arthwyn, where are you storming to?
Arthwyn is storming down towards the waterline.
So it doesn't take you long to get down there, and it doesn't take everyone else long to catch up with you either. You might think that your storming is quick, but it's dramatic. It's an average storming speed, but it just has a lot of presence. Okay, it's got a lot of bite. No one's getting in front of you, but you're not going that quickly. It's even slow enough for Vargen to keep up with his speed of 5. The rest of you catch up and you head on down to the docks. Now, obviously, the Acolyte is to your right, and there are a few walkways that lead out to where other boats and rowboats are kept. And I would like you, Arthwyn, to make me an awareness check. 17. You get a few seconds on the others to notice it as you're looking at the rowboats, you're looking at the water. You peer up the cliffside. There's probably about 200 meters of water in front of you. And then there's a sheer, hard cliff face. And it goes up for about maybe another 50 or 60 meters. And over the top of the lid, just like dry ice, just falling like a waterfall of fog comes down the side of the cliffs. Strange and enchanting. The fog up there mills and stays around, almost confined by the edges of the land. And you see this lip of it pouring down and over. And that's when you follow it, Arthwyn, with your eyes. And some of the others start to appear behind you and they see what you're doing. And then you see it, this very extremely steep series of stairs hard pressed against the side of the cliff.
How come we're not taking the bridge again? Can anyone remind me?
No.
Gorm don't know.
I figured we could use a view of all our options, really.
Well, at least it seems that the fog is less present here than over the bridge.
Arthwyn points up to the top of the cliff at the sort of just vaguest hint of building up there, and he says, "We don't get that clear a view from the bridge, do we? Have we tried going through the fog at all?"
No, it's very scary.
Yes, Gorm, it's very scary, but
maybe it's just bad weather.
The way I see it, our options are to cross the bridge where the mist is the thickest, or to climb up there, and he points where it looks rather thin.
Okay, you decide now, okay?
The climbing takes a lot more time than the bridge. I fear if we take the climb, we might not have any time to investigate at all, let alone get back in time before the mist crawls back.
I'll take Odo's advice any day.
Okay, we go cross bridge now.
Gorm leads off first, heading back up the slope. And you guys eventually come up to the bridge. You go past the inn and the destroyed inn, or partially destroyed inn. And then you begin to make your way across the bridge. The sights you see, Arthwyn, as you do, are speckles of blood on the cobbles, expended ritual components that have been cast around, a bit of ribbons and candle wax burnt out. And then you see just like clippings and bits of buckle and leather and stuff which have been cut and sliced open. And then just this bloody drag mark of something going up the side of the bridge. The blood was pooling at the top of the railing, and then that's it. You don't see anything else.
There's no brains?
There's definitely gunk and organ material.
There's some gray matter.
There's some grey matter, absolutely. I mean, birds have been picking at it all morning, so, well, early hours as you are. But that's the point. When you do get to the other side of the bridge, you notice, Oda, you were up here at nighttime, The fog is more like a mist at this point. It's thick.
It's not like, this wall that we had yesterday.
I mean, Gorm isn't stopping. He's just wandering into it.
Really?
Let's make this quick.
Gorm walks on into the fog.
Arthwyn sighs and just jogs on after him.
Arthwyn walks on into the fog.
Can I, light a candle or something?
You can light a candle.
Yeah. Okay.
You take out one of your ritual candles and light it. Absolutely.
But just so other people can see me better, maybe.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go on into the fog. It leaves you, Vargen, the last one standing, who's on the bridge.
Well, they'll just walk down in. Not really just stay out here and do nothing. So I suppose he shall follow on inside.
Okay.
Hello?
Gorm, you find yourself walking alone now in the fog. You hear and see no sound or sight of the others. You turn on the spot, hoping to see Oda's silhouette behind you, or perhaps the tall, well-built frames of your two other comrades. Nothing. There is nothing there.
Arthwyn! God can't find you! And he's just kind of wandering around, wafting his arms, trying to get the mist away so he could see something.
That is when a shape does appear. At the furthest distance of your visibility, you see an outline. It's short, just like you. It walks, just like you. As they come into view, you see them more clearly. It's a female werebub. Similar features to your own, similar markings. She's dressed in simple rags, which hang over her more like a makeshift poncho or a coat. Soot, stains of blood and dirt smeared across her garb and fur. And behind her, she pulls a heavy wooden sled. The effort to do so furrows at her brow, and her arms shake as she struggles, her voice wavering. She heaves, pulling at the rope, snagged over her shoulder.
Hello?
The female werebub squints, looking in your direction. Gorm? Gorm!
Gorm?
Is that you, Gorm?
No, it's me, Gorm. Hello. And he rushes up to help drag the sleigh thing.
On closer inspection of the sled, Gorm, you would see the neatly wrapped up figures of two older werebubs, their faces barely visible, though their eyes are now closed. The two are embracing one another, their arms wrapped around each other on the sled. Your parents appear to have died days ago, though perhaps Germa has willed herself not to look. And you see the cut on Germa's cheek. Gorm! Where were you?
Gorm,
They came!
what game?
Gorm!
Oh no. What?
The men, they came! There was no one to protect us!
What man?
The angry men! From the town, Gorm! They came!
No. When? What are you doing here? How you get here?
You didn't protect us, Gorm!
Oh, Gorm was...
You didn't protect us!
Gorm is very confused. Why is this not here? Hello?
And she solemnly slumps down in front of the wagon. She begins to sob to herself as she holds on to it.
Aw, Gorm goes to give his supposed sister a hug.
You sit there with her. I have to ask you, is there anything you're going to do?
I mean, Gorm's very confused. I think he's just gonna inspect the cart and his parents as well.
You see them huddled in there, dead.
Gorm don't understand. Why here?
You didn't protect us, Gorm.
From what?
Why did you leave, Gorm? Why did you leave?
Oh, Gorm had to go. You know this. We talk about this many times. Gorm had to go and be adventurer and friends and stuff.
You don't feel any guilt for what you've done.
But why are you here?
She disappears.
Sister!
The sled disappears.
Hello! Oh, Gorm's so confused.
Calling out. Gorm is so confused.
Oh, poor Gorm.
Arthwyn, you are alone in the fog. Your friends were there just a minute ago, behind you on the bridge, and now you wander aimlessly, lost in the endless white. Flashes of pale green flame burst out and radiate in the distance, lanterns in the pale white, illuminating the endless fog, but never holding their sway for long. Caught by your sharpened vision, however, a faint silhouette of a building takes your attention ahead of you. A village house, alone, stranded here now like you are. The door is ajar, and whether you approach it or not, the hut approaches you.
Just as it moves closer and at the sound of a voice, Arthwyn reaches for his silver sword and draws it instinctively.
You do so. You see the glimmer of whatever light is here off of the blade.
And he approaches the door, swallows knowingly.
There is a buzzing of flies within, and the pungent smell of death. Laying against the tables, propped up in the chairs and sprawled across the floors are bodies. Faceless bodies, heads covered only in flesh without ears, eyes, or any signs of a mouth.
Arthwyn enters and kneels by one of the bodies. Looks at its non-face.
A mask of flesh. Like a mannequin. If you even look at it, there's pigment in the skin. There's wounds where something may have pierced the skin or killed this person, but there's nothing to show its identity.
He stands and he looks around.
The sound of movement startles you. A black cat hisses to your left, a mere inch from your face as you stand, leaping then across the table, off a chair and bolting out of the door.
Arthwyn gives chase.
Outside, the fog has wound itself up and around the solitary house. The cat that escaped now sits a few paces from where you stand, gnawing on the severed human head of a man.
Do I recognize the man?
You do not, but it has a mouth.
You were supposed to protect us,
Speaks the severed head, his voice rasping.
Yet it was you who let the cat out.
Arthwyn approaches and kneels in front of the head and the cat. And he points the tip of his blade towards the animal. Though I know you are not here, and this cannot be real, I will have you know that I did all I could. And he sort of jams the blade forward, attempting to slay the cat.
You never see if the blade pierces the cat or not, because as the point of your sword thrusts forward, it dissipates, and everything around you dissipates. The bodies, the building, and the fog just envelops you.
Vargen.
You have been lost now for seconds. Or is it minutes? Hours? Was it a day? Each step you take is a doubt of thought. Are you moving closer or moving away from your daughter and your allies? It's cold. It's very cold. An oceanic wind blows in from some unseen shore, but it doesn't stir or move the dense fog about you. You can hear waves crashing, beautiful waves. You can smell the sea salt and the brine. You can feel the sand beneath your feet.
Vargen is going to take measure of the ground then if he feels a sand-like texture.
You look down and the sand is drenched with it. You're on a beach, somewhere in this fog. And ahead, you see the crashing waves coming in as a little of the fog parts, faint and ghostly. The shingle and the sand, a mixture of two, familiar more of the Skelligan Isles, has in it a buried treasure, something wooden, something familiar, just where the water connects, just where the water comes in.
A treasure, like a chest?
There's like something buried into the sand, just where the water comes in.
Yeah, he's going to like slowly approach it, taking measured, careful steps.
It looks heavy set, deep. You're going to need to roll me a physique check.
A physique.
15? Takes you a little while longer than you thought to pull this out, reaching and pulling. Eventually, the treasure gives way and reveals itself as a crib for a child. You notice the old druidic runes etched onto the surface, onto the joints, over the wood. Runes made by your own hand, prayers to the Crow Mother for protection and safety. And as the water laps in around your feet, you hear a child cry in the distance, an infant, somewhere out into the water, somewhere in the sea, out in the deep swell of the waves. You hear the splashing, the struggling, the gurgled screams.
With a shaky hand, he goes to sort of close the chest, to sort of not look at it anymore. He looks out towards the world and screaming and gurgling comes from.
You can't see through the fog, but the sound is clear ahead of you into the water.
He gives himself like a slow nod before he intentionally turns around completely, convincing himself that this isn't real, because Oda is not a child anymore.
Then you can roll me a resist magic check.
No.
You roll a 7. You walk away from the sounds, Vargen, from the squealing, from the crying, and you keep going. Oda, you are alone, and this time it was not by choice. The air is thick and dense. It clings in your throat and lungs like smoke. You walk onward, and every few steps passing a freshly bound thicket of dry firewood bound together. You pass the first, and only then to find the next, and each one you pass in this closed and dense visibility, you see another, each one laid beside your feet as you walk.
Arthwyn? Gorm? And Oda calls out a couple of names, a bit louder and louder every time.
Nobody replies.
Oda stops and takes a look around herself, maybe tries to touch the ground or...
The ground in this part has 2 peculiar stones positioned from one another and a piece of dry wood that's stuck in the dirt. A bundle of peasant prepared firewood down not far from where your feet are.
Does it all feel real and to the touch? Does it feel different from the visions that I sometimes have? Or thing that happened in the glass? Or...
You can make me a spellcasting check to use that as a kind of an education.
Sure.
Of your ability to understand the arcane.
Okay. 21.
21. It seems pretty real. It feels fairly real. But do you stay? Do you walk on?
Yeah,
you move on?
Yeah.
You walk a few more seconds, and then eventually you see the 2 stones and the piece of wood on the ground and the bundle of firewood.
Okay, yeah, I pick it up. Sure.
The smell of smoke continues to build, filling your clothes and your hair with the stench, irritating your eyes until they are dry and sore. Red embers glow in the white of the fog around you, and a dark smog of grey swirls above you.
This is not us.
You hear the familiar voice you travel with.
You are under a spell, Oda. This is not us.
Is it not? But it's the same.
This is not us.
Then what is? Then what is it? I drop the firewood and just continue walking again, but a bit more rougher heartbeat. And Oda begins to cover her mouth and nose from the smoke and the...
The moment you drop the firewood, you find the same firewood again when you walk another few paces.
What do you want? Oda says as she stops again at the firewood.
A structure appears through the fog, like a ship's mast or a tower sat upon rocks, moving towards you through the fog, illuminated by its own single burning torch, brighter than your candle. As the fog peels back and it approaches, You note that this is no ship's mast, nor is it a tower sat upon the rocks. It is a stake surrounded by wood and kindling, and tied to that stake is an aging woman, her arms wrapped behind her and bound, her grey rags ruined and bloodied. The executioner's torch burns in its sconce, along with a bottle of oil resting only a few paces from the pyre. "My child," speaks the woman, weary features, dulled and bruised eyes. "Lay more kindling and use the oil. They mean to burn me slow. They mean to watch my skin peel."
Oda stares in a bit of a shock at the woman and the pyre in front of her for a while, trying to make sense of what is going on here, what exactly is happening. And she just looks at the woman. "This is not us. Who are you?"
She doesn't respond. Her head's down, her hair's stringing. You see the oil and the torch, and you have the kindling by your feet.
Oda leans down to pick up the kindling. "Are you testing me?" I think I will just try to play along with whatever's going on, because it's kind of obvious what I need to do, but it's weird, right? So she just begins to add the kindling to the pyre and maybe try to touch the woman.
Feels solid as you run your hand down her forehead, and you put the kindling around the base.
But then she stops. And can I see around the base of the pyre? Like, is there ropes there or anything? Like, she's tied to it, or...
Yeah, there are ropes tying her hands behind the pyre.
Then I just want to grab my ritual knife and just, try to cut her loose.
The ritual knife snaps, shatters, falling into the kindling.
Then I just pull at the ropes with my hands.
How hard do you pull?
I try to pull hard.
You deal 2 points of damage to yourself directly as your hands are stripped by the fibers of the rope, and you scratch and slice at the flesh there.
Can't you do anything yourself to get yourself free? There's no one here this time.
She looks up at you, only one eye looking at you properly.
"Break the spell, Oda. Break the spell, or none of you are leaving."
With those words said to Oda, she just wrecks her brain trying to think of a way to fight what is going on without giving in to burning this person until she realizes for a moment and takes the burning candle and the kindle, but instead of putting it towards the pyre, she steps back to where the firewood was and begins to craft the ritual that the sorceress made before.
You'll need a few things. Do you have any oil on you? I realized what I did.
Yeah, you put oil there.
I didn't need to do that.
I have the wax, I have the candle, I have chalk and infused dust on me, and linen probably as well.
All right. You can go down and lay it down. What is the DC on that ritual?
17.
Okay.
So I'm going to use my last point of luck into this. 22?
22. The fog pushes back. Further and further it peels over Arthwyn, who stands with his silver sword revealed. And then over Gorm, who is sat alone in the mud with his hands about him, his knees to his chest. Before you, Oda, looms a menacing omen of death. The horror of a man with flesh stripped, grey and ragged. A bloodied scarlet hood covers his head and neck. Slits in that hood reveal the eyes, black and as deathly as hollows. Atop that red hood sits a crown of burning candles. In the being's right hand, summoned now by a torrent of pale flame and fog, appears a vicious-looking sword, and in its left hand, a vile burning lantern. The being spreads its arms with a mighty groan and summons forth a graveyard headstone of sheer, cold granite. Leather wraps around its flesh, and with a lashing whip, the bindings tighten the noose and bind the headstone to its back. Oda, I need you to make me a courage check.
Alright, okay. 19.
Oda, you find your feet. Only a mere second has passed. You see Arthwyn turning toward you and Gorm standing up too. Before either can act to aid you, a voice pierces the heavy and ominous air around you. This way! Quickly, run! A man waves a torch in your direction, his own sword brandished too. His hair, loose and wet, hangs over his eyes, the unkempt and patchy stubble of youth framing his face. It will kill you! Run! This way, all of you! As he continues to swing that torch to illuminate his presence.
Oda swallows deep as she looks the creature in the eyes and towards Arthwyn and Gorm. Now, can I gather from them standing up that they can see me, or do I know if they're still in some kind of haze?
Well, you have locked eyes with Arthwyn and you can lock eyes with Gorm. Both of these people are staring back at you.
Okay, in that case, I want to use a spell.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to try and see if I can use a web of roots on the creature so that it gives us more time to run. Because from the way I see it, right? The creature's in front of me, and then there's Arthwyn somewhere behind or
However,
Gorm.
Web of Roots requires a tree within 10 meters of you.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm afraid where you stand, if you look around you immediately, you see fallen rubble, you see some shrubbery, there's half a wall of a building. The young man that's waving his torch is stood on some kind of half-ended wall of a building that's fallen down, and he is using that structure to get elevation to see you both. There is no vegetation thick enough to perform roots.
Oda pulls one foot, takes one step back, and then she yells out, Gorm, Arthwyn, we need to go! And then she, looks at the creature again, and I'm gonna, start.
Running?
Yeah.
The creature grows further in size, now 3 times the size of a man, as it's filling out the space. And as it does so, its arms turn more into fog, as it's almost pouring out hose-like gusts of this air, and it's pushing back the ritual that you have tried to make, which you had actually successfully cast.
Arthwyn has been sort of studying the creature momentarily, and for a split second, it's as if he can't decide whether to fight it or flee. But at the man's call and at Oda's suggestion, he flourishes his blade, and then his boot skids on the cobbles as he sprints towards Gorm to make sure that he's following along and not just waving at the creature.
Gorm, unless you resist, he just grabs you by the back of the collar and yanks you out of the mud.
No, what's going on? And he doesn't resist so much, but yeah.
You tuck the web up under your arm, Arthwyn, and you sprint across the mud. Now, you are a Witcher. Anybody else would have had to have rolled for the difficult terrain of moving through this mud at that speed, but you don't have to, because you take quite a few, you get quite a few bonuses to that kind of terrain. And this creature is starting to really dissipate out now, and you're noticing that Oda's spell is being pushed really hard. Oda, you reach the young man. He puts a hand over his mouth. Quickly! Into the cellar beneath that house! As fast as you can, I'll explain in there! You can see there's a torch stuck outside of a cellar storm door.
Oda doesn't even question it. She just looks behind her quickly to see Arthwyn is falling. As soon as she sees the shape of him, she just moves towards the light of the
You see
cellar.
a bundled up Gorm just underneath Arthwyn's arm, Hi, Oda!
We are going very fast, Oda!
It's almost as good as Barkley.
You also do the same, Arthwyn? You run towards the cellar door, or do you have other plans?
Uncharacteristically trusting for a Witcher, Arthwyn
it is.
full trust in Oda at least, and he hurdles towards the door, or the cellar door.
You see as the young man with the torch, suddenly the creature's head turns, and even though, it's only got these slits for eyes, it has that menacing gaze about it. It looks at the young man. The man grabs the torch and throws it somewhere off into the mist. There is a deep and almost reverberating wraith-like cry as the creature just disperses fully into a cloud of fog, and a fog thick enough so you can see where it is, and it just rushes into the white towards where the torch landed.
Ooh, he distracted it.
And he rushes down for the cellar, beneath this blackened rocked house.
Arthwyn, what are you doing? Put the gun down.
As Arthwyn arrives in the cellar, he in the same motion as he stops, he places Gorm on his feet.
Sweet tones of musty earth and damp scents of mould do not escape you as you descend down into this dimly lit cellar. The room is hard to read. On one side is littered with empty crates and barrels and nets. On the other, a table stands covered in schematics, chunks of reflective ore, bottles of potion and weapons you find familiar. The young man that led you here secures the torch to a sconce on the way down to the cellar, closing the doors behind him. He reaches for a rag to wipe the sweat and muck off his face, turning now to look at you, Arthwyn, in the eyes. "She'll be safe in here," he says, swallowing deep.
Before I answer, does Arthwyn recognize the creature?
You may go ahead and make a Witcher training check. 17. I do believe that is enough by 1.
Ooh.
Penitents are souls that return to the mortal coil to punish evildoers and those who've committed heinous crimes, much like their lesser cousins, the Wraith. No one can entirely agree on where they return from, but the fact that it is if you commit a heinous crime, you have a chance to summon a penitent. If you do, the penitent will attach itself to both you and the location of the crime, plunging the area into a cloud of unnatural mist and summoning wraiths within the area. The penitent will appear in the mist to haunt you, calling your name in a hoarse rasp and attacking you the moment you come within sight. The wraiths summoned by the penitent will attack anything that enters the area of the mist with unrestrained fury.
Did you see anyone else up there but us? And Oda looks over her shoulder towards the cellar door.
I saw you walking in the fog, not far from this building. The cellar. I heard you
There's
you had
four
your head.
of us.
Just you. You had your head snapped up.
No, we're walking, friend.
I don't know where your friend is. I didn't even see you there. And I didn't even see you, Witcher. I just saw you, ma'am. As he says as he looks in your direction, Oda.
Gorm pulls his mace and shield and just heads for the door.
Arthwyn puts his hand on Gorm's shoulder just to stop him for a moment at least. And he looks at the man.
We have fight Vargen.
Are you the one they call a Witcher?
We are Witchers, yeah. Althwyn, the first thing you notice when he says that is he has not a single morsel of a Witcher look. He doesn't have the cat eyes. He doesn't have the more robust physical form. He has no sign of the trials or no sign of the gauntlets he would have had to have run as a student. But what he does have around his neck is a piece of string. And then, carved into a wooden emblem, is the shape of a little rat.
And what school of Witcher are you from? And he obviously sees the quote-unquote medallion, but he needs an explanation.
He straightens his back up, trying to... He hadn't rehearsed this. He just tried to save your lives, and now he's thinking about it. And he says, a new school. We're the School of the Rat.
A new school?
And Arthwyn, as you ask that and you look around and you see familiar schematics on the table for various blade oils, you see a couple of pages for a decoction up on the wall and some silver ore littered across the table, a crate of it, in fact.
Gorm is trying to open the door, but he's holding his mace and his shield, and he's not doing very well.
Oda looks at Arthwyn, and instead of trying to say no to Gorm, she looks at Arthwyn like, is it possible? Can we kill it?
Ignoring the obvious elephant in the room of the Rat Witcher, He turns to Gorm and gets down on one knee, still with his hand on his shoulder. He says, Gorm, I'm sure we can find Vargen, but we can't go out there just yet. The creature we saw in the mist was a penitent.
Very spooky.
Exactly. It was extremely spooky.
Spooky.
And it's not something that you want to face unprepared.
Have
you heard of a wraith?
Gorm just bashing face. It's fine.
Gorm, I'm sorry, but this is a problem you can't solve by bashing it in the face.
What?
As long as it remains in the mist, we can't kill it.
Oh, did you grab and pull out a mist, okay?
That's simply not how it works, Gorm. And he stands up and he looks around the cellar and then at the man. He says, how is it that the mist hasn't penetrated your cellar?
The young man gestures further up the steps leading out of the cellar, that on either side of the main doors that you've closed are two symbols of like Eden, or a similarity to Eden, and they are glowing constantly with a deep, thrumming shade of purple.
He examines the symbols and then turns his attention to the Witcher supplies. Where did you get all these things?
A few weeks back, I saw a couple of Witchers, two men and a woman. We saw them from across the castle. We saw them using this cellar. They haven't returned, not in weeks. So we came over here. We wanted to help. Look, if Lady La Valette's not gonna come back with help, and if Bale ain't gonna deal with this, then the people that live here have got to help. Us, we're the Witchers now.
The way I see it, we have 3 ways to handle this. First, Lord Bale has to die. If he does, the penitent will simply vanish. I'm certainly not against it after meeting the man. Our alternatives are to clear the fog just enough that he'll become vulnerable, kill it in the short window of opportunity that would afford us. The last option would be to get Lord Bale to cooperate. He needs to help us clear the mist, and that would aid us in killing the creature.
Oda walks down the stairs and she begins actually looking through all the stuff that is here. She knows alchemy, but she's still gonna try and see if like any of the stuff the Witchers left behind is like labeled. Is there anything like against spirits? Or
You find a series of very difficult formulas. There are blade oil recipes for vampires, beasts, spectres, and draconids, as well as a Noonwraith decoction and a crate of silver ore alongside a silvered stiletto dagger. So very Witcher-based monster-killing implements. Finally, there are, and this is what I'm calling, 5 potion kits. These kits can craft any novice-level potion or elixir, regardless of available ingredients.
Okay, so Oda first of all takes the stiletto, slips it into her belt, kind of like thing. So I grabbed the one for the Spectre, and I grabbed the thing for the Noonwraith, the decoction. I turned to Arthwyn. Is this something you can use?
We have to save Vargen.
Fine. We'll do it this way, but I'll need some time to prepare.
Who has an alchemy kit?
I believe either Oda or I have one.
I'm good to assume that an alchemy kit is pretty heavy, right? Because I checked my inventory, I do have one, but I think I left it on the ship. But I can make one.
Are you going to be using Iron Cauldron?
I will try to use Iron Cauldron if I can.
You have one problem.
Right, I need stuff for it.
You need a large iron pot.
Can I find one? Can I start rummaging around this place?
Oda's frustration is building and building as she's moving around. She's just wading through things. At one point, like a large metal spoon just goes flying across the ceiling. She's really rummaging.
Gorm is confused.
You can't find one down here. You do know there were a couple of ruined buildings above. This cellar is beneath
a house.
A building.
Yeah. Okay.
And those buildings, at least partly, are affected by your ritual.
Which is correct. At least 3 of the buildings are.
We don't have much time.
Oda throws another freaking fork or something to the floor, and she starts walking very briskly towards the staircase, and she pulls up her hood. I need to go out there. I'll just be just a minute.
What?
What do you need? What's going on? Why are you trashing the place? What's going on? Talk to me.
Arthwyn wants to prepare. We need an alchemy kit or something. I can make something, but I need a pot. And there's houses upstairs, right?
Yeah, there could be a pot up there. I'll come with you, though. It's dangerous out there.
We'll be very quick.
Oh, well, what about Gorm? Gorm stay? Gorm go?
Gorm, you can go with them.
Okay, Gorm, come. Keep all the friends safe and little rat man.
Make sure you come back safe.
We will be quick. Let's go. I would like to start moving quietly, and Oda puts like a finger up to her lips and to shush at Gorm for him to be quiet.
What have I? Gorm is very sticky.
Shh.
Gorm is very sticky.
Okay, good. Be quiet.
Gorm is very quiet.
Okay.
The buildings along the cliff edge are in ruin. Many of them remain only half standing. Upper floors and ceilings have fallen through. Beams of timber lay waterlogged now and rotting. The house above the cellar is by far the exception, though. The tall building instead shows signs of charring. The remaining stone is blackened from fire. Any window hatches that remain are closed shut over the windows. But those that have been lost to the fire show the interior to be cindered to a crisp, though there is a sporadic littering of items within. In the street outside the building, a single watering well stands perfectly intact. Not a mark on it left by the wars that ravaged the land here.
Order find things now, okay?
Okay. So I think I'm gonna go towards the one with the 2 stories then. The one that looks the most intact.
When you look at the building, you come to the front steps. You are always being careful for any whispering or movement you hear out in there. You find yourself stopping a few times just to see if you can hear Vargen in the distance. Anything else? Nothing for now.
Absolutely.
And you come forward to this charred building then, that is above the cellar. And it is so different to the others. The charring is more on the inside of the brick, kind of snaking out past where the windows were. And the first thing you notice is the window directly to the right of the door has a large metal bar across it on the outside. The door has a very large wagon wheel pressed up against it underneath the handles to have barred the door closed.
Oda looks questioningly at John. Why is this closed?
Be quieter.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I haven't been in this one. I didn't want to disturb it just in case it did something and then you could get to the cellar below.
Did the Witchers do it?
I don't think so. It's been like this as long as I know, since we got here. Maybe.
Go open the door now.
And he points to the wagon wheel before you go on, and the wagon wheel is just as burnt as the door that it's propped up against.
Okay, so can I try to move that out of the way? Is it heavy still? Yeah.
I mean, Gorm, would you help Oda move?
Gorm, help.
Okay, thank you.
You go to reach for the wagon wheel. Jong gives a hand. Gorm puts up both his little mitts to grab it, and the whole wagon wheel just crumbles, cindered. And the door itself, half of it just falls off. There's a loud bang as a bit of it crumbles down to the ground. John winces up his eyes.
Oda, you immediately looks over her shoulder.
Nothing for now. But the door, what's left of it, swings gently on a hinge. Barely able to open much, but enough to get you through.
Stay behind me.
Oh, okay, be very quiet and also keep an eye out for other web up, like Gorm. But woman?
Did you see? Oda shakes her head and then starts moving inside the building, tiptoeing.
The light in here is very dim.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that as you get in, there are more charred windows that have been barred from the outside, that have not been allowed to open. This appears to be the only door into the building, and you're immediately met with a horrifying sight. Huddled around this door are skeletons of people that had tried to reach for the door on this side. Some of them are cradling smaller skeletons. Some of them are cradling infant skeletons. Inside, you would expect to see tables, perhaps,
bookshelves, the kind of signs of someone living, but instead there are just charred remains of bed after bed after bed. It looks like some kind of boarding house. There were charred remains where chests used to be, but they're now just cinder and ash. And all around where the windows are just these skeletons that tried to reach up for the windows or the doors and couldn't get out.
Gorm don't like this. Can we go down, okay?
Is this why the spirit is so angry? Oda looks to Jong.
I didn't know anything about the spirit before your witcher said it. I just thought it was like a war wraith. I mean, look at the land.
Spirit man, very, very angry at Mr. Bale.
Does say Bell's name.
Did Bale man burn people?
Do you think this is the reason? We can't jump to conclusions like that, Gorm, but...
Oh, Gorm made good at conclusions.
I think you're right, though. Or might be. Oda shakes her head again and tries not to look at the corpses. Is there any area without cots or beds or where a chimney would have been or anything where...
There is a fireplace, and on it, roughly about 1/2 meter wide, it's a deep laden cauldron that's up on like a spit roast pole above the fire, and it's rusty and it's a bit charred in places. That, and perhaps a few utensils, other things that are metal that would have flaked but not, been destroyed remain. But mostly it's just blackened, charred soot and ash, and the skeletons.
Oda very much tries to ignore all the charred remains around her as she moves forward to try and take the cauldron off the fire.
All right. I'm going to ask both of you if you're going to hoist the cauldron off of... I mean, it's not heavy, but you're trying to do things carefully. Yeah. And it's made of cast iron. So
cast iron is heavy.
It is. I'm going to ask you both to make a physique check, and I want you both to succeed against a DC 10, which is the lowest difficulty.
No problem, man.
Don't you dare tempt fate, Gorm, with his 16 and a 14. The two of you work together and you lift off the cauldron. And Gorm kind of keeps hold of it.
Kind of puts it on his head and just kind of carries it.
John takes a deep breath. And as he does, seeing you approach with the cauldron, there is a crack of wood above him as one of the floorboards splinter. And he looks up just at the worst time. And dust and ash begins to fall down in his eyes. Something in my eyes! It's in my eyes! And he's...
Oda moves over quickly and tries to, cover his mouth whilst...
Can you make me a leadership check?
Yeah, oh yeah.
13?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry! Oh my god! I'm gonna need water, I need water! Please! Oh, it's ash!
Okay, I just take an arm around him and start moving him back towards the cellar door.
It's okay, Gorm's eyes not so good. You don't need eyes.
He comes back to you with the cellar and he goes down the steps, takes a seat, and he's already grabbing that rag he used.
Yeah.
Now the others are obviously with you again, Arthwyn, as they come back in. Gorm carrying this last cauldron. They've only been away for about 10 minutes. And the poor young man's wiping away his eyes. He's getting most of it out.
Making sure to close the cellar door, by the way.
Yeah, you close the cellar door.
Arthwyn? We found the boat. Do you think you can do it?
I should be able to create a few things.
Oda begins to help Gorm move the cauldron kind of in a sort of central place in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And once they said it, Oda takes a deep breath. There is something you should know, Arthwyn, about what we found upstairs.
What did you find?
We found dead people.
The doors and the windows of the building upstairs, they seem to be barred. The door was barred from the outside with a wheel, and inside, beds with cots and people burned with children in their arms. It looked like the fire was coming from inside.
That'll be it then. It's usually not so easy to discover the cause of a penitent. But that certainly sounds like it might be it. This Lord Bale has a lot to answer for. If We killed Lord Bale. I'm certain he'd be replaced by yet another fool who would mismanage the settlement almost as poorly, and at least we have a deal with Lord Bale.
No.
You made a deal with him?
No. We make deal with God Captain. He has guards. He take over town, okay?
Do you know Arthur's father?
Oh, yes, he very good friend. He not like Mr. Bale.
He certainly deserves it.
If we're gonna kill him, we need a plan.
First we say Vargen friend.
There is a way that I can see if my father's alright. I can look into the flames and see if he's still alive, and...
The Vargen not in flames, he in fog!
That, or we prepare to kill the creature.
Okay, we do that then. Let's go. And Gorm heads for the door.
Gorm, wait.
What?
Just a little longer. We're almost ready to go, please.
Don't hurt me.
Arthwyn looks at Gorm directly in the eyes, trying to just get through to him. This is very important, Gorm.
Are you making big spell?
Let's say that.
Oh, big bomb.
I'll certainly try to do something.
Okay.
Just give me
do now, okay?
a few more moments.
Okay.
Oda, are you able to perform the ritual to see about Vargen's whereabouts?
Yeah.
Did she ever do the cauldron thing?
No, the cauldron's a separate ritual. So there is some idea that you might want to do the cauldron first and the ritual afterwards.
Okay, yeah, so then you work on the recipe and I work on the other ritual.
He gestures to the cauldron. Oda, if you would.
What do you need for the cauldron?
Timber? I can find timber here. Infused dust, I have that. I need river clay, stone, and chalk.
Okay, I'm going to say all that stuff is very easy to find in this cellar where you are.
Yeah, party infused dust, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm happy for you to have one chance to make this with the materials you have at hand.
Okay.
So what's the DC on that heathen ritual?
14.
Okay, so if you go ahead then and make me a ritual crafting check, please. If you've got any luck, this might be a good time.
I'm going to use one luck anyway.
Very good.
20. Okay.
You place down some clay, some rocks, some timber, and you settle the cauldron on top of it. And you have created basically, can you click the cauldron for me so I can just read it out?
Absolutely.
It's not a common ritual. This is actually one of the witch-specific ones. An iron cauldron, which serves as an alchemy set. And when used to craft formula, the witch may choose to increase the DC by 3 to create 2 units of that product instead. But Oda finishes it and wipes her hands clean of the dust.
Arthwyn approaches the fresh alchemy kit, as it were, and nods to Oda. See if your father lives. I shall prepare. Arthwyn would like to create some spectre oil.
You can go ahead and try to roll alchemy. Now, I'm assuming you're not raising the DC by 3 to make 2.
No, please, God, no.
DC 19 is a little tough even going. Now, do you have any luck or anything you want to use for this roll?
I might.
So if you go ahead then and roll me that alchemy check.
Just a bit of luck in it. No!
Well, you fumbled by 1, so it's nothing major. But I'm afraid you must have been sweating over the cauldron. It's looking good, and then it goes the stinkiest, foulest green possible.
God.
And you realize that you wipe your brow, and your brow is just dripping in this humid, dark, damp cellar. And the sweat and the salt water has gone into the potion, causing the entire thing to spoil. That's 1 potion kit used.
Okay, I'll try it again.
Okay. You empty out the fluid, give it to Gorm, who takes it up the steps, opens the door, throws it out like bath water, and you come back downstairs again. You work again at it, stirring away, and this time, Jong comes over and just mops your brow with the rag a few times as you're working. And you score a 17 on this one. That is a successful dose of spectre oil. Arthwyn has managed to fully craft what he wanted to craft, Oda.
That's good. Yeah.
You want to perform your...
Pyromancy, yes.
The only source of open flame down in the cellar is the torch you've all been using to illuminate the area.
Okay.
So I guess you sit down then on a bench, and I would imagine you pinch the torch between your knees as a means to leave your hands free so that you can sprinkle in the powders, perform the gestures and incantations of the ritual.
Just look deep into the flames, and She starts whispering a bit of a mix of a bit of like Nordling and a bit of like broken elder speech, I imagine.
Very nice. Can you go ahead then, please, and roll for me your ritual crafting?
Of course. I shall put 2 more luck into this.
Gorm is watching Oda, but he's very confused.
18. That's a success. Peering into the flames, your eyes settle upon the glowing embers and the dancing throngs of heat. The flames begin to part, ever so slightly, and in their reflections you see the silhouette now of a man. You see Vargen is drenched from the waist down, emerging from the waves of the ocean. He turns about, and though the scene plays out in silence, he appears to be shouting and calling out as he strides along the stony shore of the beach. In the distance, very faintly you spot the familiar rooftops and towers of a Skelligan settlement on the jagged cliffs above him. He collects his belongings off of the beach, bewildered and confused, and turns eagerly towards that town. Now, do you continue watching on and spend more stamina, or have you seen enough for now?
As Oda's eyes regain focus and she breaks the sight into the flames, she lets out a huge sigh of relief, almost that the torch falls from between her knees, which she catches.
Oda might be a bit surprised because right next to her, like centimeter, like Gorm's head is right next to her, staring into the fire as well.
I would like you to mark off, since you started the cauldron and this ritual, and we'll say 1 point of stamina for the time you took to look at the vision, I would like you to please mark off 14 points of stamina in total.
Is Oda cold? Go and find cold for Oda.
I'm okay, Gorm. He's alright.
What?
My father, Vargen,
He had fire?
Oda smiles a little bit at that. First time she smiled in about an hour or so.
Gorm looks into the fire again. He's just narrowing his eyes.
He's getting closer and closer to it, and his little nose is only about an inch away from the fire now.
Gorm, no, see him.
It's a different way of looking into the flames, Gorm, but...
Vargen!
It's... You can't always trust the fire, but...
Oh, fire very dangerous. Tell Vargen to come out here. It's too hot in fire.
He's far away, Gorm.
No, the fire right there.
No, I didn't see Vargen in the fire, but I saw where he is right now. It's a vision, like when you dream at night.
Oh,
do you dream sometimes?
Oh, Gorm has night pictures, yes.
So they're not these night pictures. When you look into the flames, the way I look into the flames, sometimes they are not just pictures, but you can see what's going on right now.
No,
it's real.
Night pictures not real, Oda.
Just trust me. My father is all right, Gorm.
Oh, he out in
I
mist.
think he's home.
That might explain the couple of soldiers that came into the mist. We saw them walking in, we never saw them leave, and we didn't find no bodies either.
So the spirit must have some special powers there. Is this something these spirits to be capable of? She looks at Arthwyn.
It's not unheard of. It's not something that I would have expected, but it's possible.
Well,
Vargen, come out of fire.
my father will find his way again.
So when Vargen come back out of fire?
I don't think he will come back. I'm not even sure that he could reach us anywhere in time, Gorm. Not in the foreseeable future.
Skellige? That's like 3 weeks sailing from here.
That's long time.
If he's going to come looking. But knowing my father, he will probably get distracted by something or else on his way.
Okay. But then we still have to save Sister Gorma, okay?
Gorm, your sister isn't here.
No, Gorm saw us. It was a little weird, but Gorm see.
When I entered the mist, I saw my mother sick on her deathbed. Coughing she was. And I kept getting the medicine out of the cabinet and coming back and giving it to her. And she always needed more, but the medicine was never in my hand and I had to keep going back to the cabinet.
Oh, big cabinet.
I'm trying to say something, little one.
Oh, sorry.
That spirit does messing with your mind. You ain't seen anyone you know.
Oh, sorry. He messing with Sister Gorma.
The spirit is messing with you, Gorm.
No, Gorm.
Your sister isn't here. You saw her, just as Oda explained, like in a dream.
Oh, Gorm was asleep.
In the mist.
In a manner of speaking.
Oh no. Well, that good, because Gorm's parents was dead and Gorm didn't like that.
Oda puts a hand on Gorm's shoulder for a moment.
Well, we no need to fight monster now, we just go kill Bellman.
A part of me does feel like serving out some justice.
Gorm think we talk to Guardman, tell him about burning babies, and make him bring Bellman to Bridge.
He must face what he's done. Obviously, he has some cause of this.
And if he don't come, because he's a coward inside his castle...
Then we make him.
Mr. Guardman make it when he hear what he do.
We are going to close the episode on that note and return next time to find out whether the group come together to fight the penitent or personally choose to bring Bale to justice. Before we end things today, I want to say a big farewell and thank you to Mats, who's played Oda's father, the druid Vargen, since we began in Novigrad. Sadly, he won't be returning to the show, but we do wish him well in all his future endeavours. For the rest of us, we'll see all of you along with Oda, Gorm and Arthwyn next week for episode 18 of The Witcher, Chaos on the Pontar. So until then, bye-bye.